I will pass, and I will yield to Mr. Griffith.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I appreciate it. Thank you, Chairman Guthrie, for being here. I really appreciate you here to talk about my bill. You know, it's interesting. Heard my good friend saying, Mr. Pallone saying that this isn't what people are talking about back home. I can assure you that's what they'll be talking about in my hometown of Salem, Virginia, and in Roanoke County, when formerly Mohawk, now Yokohama Tire's been that way for about 20 years, who makes tires in my hometown and employs a lot of people in the 9th District, starts having to maybe lay off people because many of our tire plants in the United States won't be able to meet these standards, and some of them will cut back production or go out of business. So, yeah, you're right. They may not be talking about it today. They may not have talked about it on Saturday. But when the layoff notices go out, they're going to be talking about it, and that's why we're doing this, is we're trying to prevent those layoff notices from going out. In my home region, I'm proud to use those tires on a regular basis because I know that when I buy those tires, one, they're good quality tires, they're going to last a long time, and I'm providing, even if it's a small measure, my little 4 tires on my vehicle aren't going to keep the plant open or keep it from having layoffs, but it goes a little bit of the way of helping there. And unfortunately, I'm afraid what the EPA has done for many years, Madam Chair, is it has not looked at the job consequences in the community. It has not looked at what the economic impacts are. It's okay if we send these plants to other parts of the world where they will pollute outrageously instead of doing it here more reasonably. Now, Mr. Chairman, is that kind of your understanding of why I put this bill in?
Absolutely. I don't think I can improve on what you just said.
Yeah.
I agree.
And I would ask you, was the EPA able to quantify whether hazardous air pollutants would be reduced by this rule?
They were not.
They weren't even able, they didn't even try. This was just something they thought, oh, it looks like we ought to be doing something, so we're going to do something, without making a detailed quantification on whether the hazardous air pollutants that they're trying to control would even be reduced by this rule. That's what makes this so hard. You know, my folks could be negatively impacted, but the EPA didn't take the time to make sure of what they were doing. Now, if we repeal this rule, would other EPA NESHAPs apply to rubber tire plants? That's other regulations that they have?
Yes, they would.
And would the repeal of this rule prevent the EPA from issuing a modified rules for rubber tire plants? Not exactly like this one, but on other categories of air pollution?
My understanding, it wouldn't.
Yeah, it's my understanding too. You know, this is the problem with the EPA. They come out with these rules, and it won't be the first time that my district's lost jobs. Towns, I mean, I had a town that basically gave up its charter this year. Why? Because a number of years ago, EPA came out with rules. The local industry shut down because of those rules. A month after they shut down, might have been 3.5 weeks, but roughly a month after they shut down, the rule of the EPA was stricken by the Supreme Court. They hadn't done it right, and they took it down, but the plant didn't reopen, and the jobs were lost, and local businesses closed. And as a result, this year the town turned in its charter, and it's just one of those census areas now as opposed to being a town. That's the kind of bad stuff that happens when we don't go in to check what we're really doing and make sure that the impact of the regulation is actually quantifiable to make air better. We just go forward because it sounds good. Isn't that right?
That's correct. And also, to comply with the rule, you have to use more energy, so it's estimated it actually will increase carbon dioxide.
Wow. Wow. And in the meantime, many of the facilities making tires in the United States will have to either shutter or reduce their production, as a result of which there will be more and more foreign tires coming in, and frankly, I'd rather buy American. Madam Chair, I yield back.
Thank you. Ranking Member McGovern.